One of the things we like to do is start at the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about Valerie Brandes, her journey.
Early years.
The early years. What was life like as a youngster? The younger Valerie.
So I always say, this is like sort of my mantra that I carry with me everywhere I go. I'm just a black girl from Hackney. Okay, so
Okay. Hey, welcome to Pitch Black Online. Welcome to the Pitch Black Unboxing Show. Today, as always, we've got a great guest for you.
Indeed.
And, we here at Pitch Black, we absolutely love books because we believe that readers are leaders and leaders have to be readers. So we always champion books. And today we've got someone who operates in the space of books. And we really want to welcome Valerie Brandes, who is the founder and CEO of Jacaranda Books. So, hey, welcome, Valerie.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So
How are you?
Happy to be here. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
It's absolutely our pleasure.
It is indeed.
So one of the things we like to do is start at the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about Valerie Brandes, her journey.
Early years.
The early years. What was life like as a youngster? The younger Valerie.
So I always say, this is like sort of my mantra that I carry with me everywhere I go. I'm just a black girl from Hackney. Okay, so that's
good.
where I'm from. I grew up in Hackney in Stoke Newington. Second youngest of 11 children, and this is like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, no opportunities for us as black people in that community, but very strong family, very warm family. My mom and dad obviously had high ideals for their children. My dad passed when I was 17, so then it was my mom raising us, and it was an interesting time. I look at the world today and compare it to the world back then, and I think, gosh, how were we doing anything that we were doing back then? But I ended up sort of just kind of, you talk about somebody being a late bloomer. That's exactly how I describe myself, because for many years, into my 20s, I just didn't have a clue. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I wanted to be, none of that stuff. But then I managed to, just because I needed a job, I found a job in the civil service at this one of the research councils in economics and social science. And I got there, and I was in the postgraduate training department where they looked at these research proposals. And all these people were going all over the world and getting paid big money from this research council to look into, the sort of the yellow flowers in Borneo, or, just like really. And the only requirement that you needed to go and do that was you needed to have a degree, a BA, and it had to be at least a 2-1. And I'm like, you know what? If that's all it takes, I'm going to get a degree, okay?
Absolutely.
So I actually did that. I was just sitting there watching these people's lives thinking, let me just go and see. And it's really more informed now than it was then, honestly. What I knew back then was I liked all things American, and I saw a degree as a way out. Not because anyone said so, but because I saw these people doing what they were doing. And so I did. I applied. I mean, I did have A levels, so I came out of school, and I was always really smart in school. But it is about like people pouring into you, number one, and also what the expectations are, right? And so if people are low expectations of, you're not really going to go and do anything, you're not going to go anywhere, you kind of take that on. So it was the first good step that happened to me, was stepping out of that world into the world of people who are studying and graduates and all the rest of that. So I applied to I decided I wanted to do American studies or some form of it. And I applied to Exeter University because they had a program, American and Commonwealth Studies. And what that meant was, in the third year of your degree, you got to go abroad for a whole year. I was like, that is it. That's the way out, you know.
That's the dream.
That's the dream, right? So, and what I thought at the time, once I got, because I was accepted on the course, it turned out I was the second Black student they'd accepted in 20 years, but there I was on this course. And there were only 11 of us on it. It was a really small course. And even now, I just met the other day somebody who did it in the year after me when there were 15 in her cohort. And I don't know how I found this course. I really don't know. But it changed my life in every conceivable way. I'm telling you, in every conceivable way. So yeah, I get on this course and, you know, we're studying music and photography and film and just not practice, all theory, all the theory of, you know.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And in that first year, you know, there were people on the economics courses dropping left, right and center, you know, and I'm like going to study the blues today. So I've got to listen to W.C. Handy and I've got to listen to Robert Johnson. And I mean, it was just brilliant. It was really brilliant. And this was in Exeter, right? So, you know, culturally struggled, you know. I mean, lots
and
of
I'm guessing we're talking about Robert Johnson, BET Robert Johnson.
Well, no, I was talking about the blues man. Robert Johnson.
Okay. Beg your pardon.
So you didn't do the studies, you know.
I need to get on that course.
I don't think they have it anymore.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay.
And it sounds, because I looked at your degree, because you're on the internet, I can find out, and it's, you know, like you said, American and Commonwealth arts or something like that. And you know, because you are a publisher, I thought, okay, so creative writing, that sort of thing. But it sounds like it was a lot more, you know, a lot wider than that. So music and dance and just wow.
The whole broad spectrum of the arts is what it was, and I was excited about the possibility of being able to go to the Caribbean. I wanted to go to University of Caribbean in Jamaica and spend learning about my culture. And we don't have links with them. I'm like, it's the Commonwealth Arts. Like, what do you mean? So I ended up getting sent to California, to the University of California at Santa Cruz.
Okay.
One ever heard of it. I had never heard of it. My friend at the time who was on the course, she got sent to Berkeley. Everyone heard of Berkeley. Everyone heard of UCLA where other people were going. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, Santa Cruz. Like, I don't even know what is a Santa Cruz, right? And so I get there and I had been to Berkeley to help her get settled in. And then we went down the coast. And can you imagine? I'm telling you, all the time I'm thinking, I'm a black girl from Hackney. Like, how is this happening? Driving down the 101 to my university, and we turn in this gate, and all you see is this long brown field, and at the top of the field is a little brown hut that letting people in, and that's where I was going to be for a year. Like, I'm a London girl going into the middle of nowhere in California. That's what it felt like. But actually, talk about transformations, because it was the most incredible campus, beautiful little town. Up on the hill, you could see the sea on one side, and then they have the giant redwood forest in the middle, and I mean, it was just unreal. And the first day of school, I met my husband.
Oh wow! That alone is worth it.
Oh my goodness me!
Oh, that's fantastic.
Small world.
Go figure. I mean, I'm still like, remember my mantra, I'm a black girl from Hackney. How is this happening? I can't make sense of any of it, you know, but that's how it was. So, and that year was amazing academically, you know, really academically. So,
Now that sounds absolutely engaging, and we're going to attempt to unpack some of that.
There's so much there.
There's so much there that we can unpack. But tell us a little bit about, so go back a bit as well, and tell us a little bit about your role models growing up. You know, who were they and why?
So, I mean, I know it's really sort of a bit of a cliche, but it has to be my mum, honestly, who's now 98 years old. And as strong and as feisty as ever. I mean, my mum was basically pregnant every year for 10 years. Like, if you look at her life like that. And she came from Dominica in the Caribbean. My dad was from Antigua. And she was really smart. She was really academically gifted. And they had this program in their school where you could go and study, actually, think about this, in America. So my mum was growing up in the 30s, 40s, 50s, right? And she got this opportunity. It was a priest actually who came to our island. They were looking for the smartest kids on the island. There was an opportunity for them to go and study in America. And she was being so bonded to her mother, who was a seamstress and a bunch of other things in the community. She chose to stay with her mom, and she learned to sew. And so she never went. But actually, by the time her life sort of panned out, she met my dad. They fell in love. They started to have kids, like more and more and more kids. It was the sewing that saved her, because when she came to the UK, she became one of those women that, I don't know if you hear about, I can't remember the phrase that they used to call them, but they're sort of the singer sewing machines women. A lot of them were Asian women, but a lot of them were Caribbean women as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singer machine in your house, and then she would do piecework, and it would be sewing on the buttonholes or doing like lapels, all that little repetitious work. And they would be like bags and bags of stuff that she'd have to just sew. But that's how she kept us afloat, you know.
That's fantastic. And I think that industry was concentrated around East London, mainly in Hackney and Dalston.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she still has her sewing machine in the house to this
Wow.
day. So so
we know it well.
Yeah, you know. So she's my hero. She has to be. And really, it's hard to sort of think about it in our modern day when you have so much coming at you in terms of like information, right? It's very easy to find some celebrity or something. But I remember back then, she really was my hero. I mean, it wasn't going to the movies, it wasn't on TVs. The women around you, seeing how they were operating, seeing the way that they sort of supported each other as early immigrants, and you know, just understanding. She was always just like, you know, I just understand, like when I was in primary school, remember there's 11 children. I remember going to the primary school and the dinner ladies, who were all white women, saying things to me like, and my sisters as well, oh my God, how did your mum get your socks so white? How's your hair so tidy? Like they would always comment on our appearance, and you know, you take it for granted, right? That my mum, like, you ain't leaving the house like that, okay? You know, you know what I mean? Like
your whites were white.
Exactly.
You know?
I hear you.
And this is before all of the kind of like wonderful washing machines and things that we have now.
That part, Judy, that part.
I'm telling you.
Listen,
yes.
Now listen, I told our daughter just the other day, I said, yeah, I remember grandma had in one corner of the bathroom, it wasn't even twin tub yet. Twin tub was high stuff, but the little one thing with this mangle thing on the side, and you put them in. I said, so see that nice little pasta making machine now?
Yes.
No, that was
I love it. So how could she not be my hero? How could they not be our heroes? Do you know what
honestly,
I mean?
That's it.
Honestly, we stand on the shoulders of giants. We really do.
Listen,
seriously.
somebody, we went out and met somebody the other day, and the first thing, this I guess they're called millenniums. One of the first things that came into my head was, how on earth can you leave your house with a crumple up shirt? You couldn't even iron the shirt. So that's where all of that is coming from.
Even linen.
You know what I mean?
And even now, when I do that, like if I'm gonna go out and get the iron out, my kids are like, "What are you doing?" I'm not going on the street with my shirt. Like, no, I got.
Yeah, it's not an optional extra.
It's not. Thank you.
Oh,
that's it.
I tell you what. The other thing that in terms of history was a typewriter. I remember Leah coming home from school, driving, what have you done at school today? Blah, 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 history lesson. And Mom, did you know in the olden days, they had this thing called a typewriter and you could press things and you know, you're driving, you're thinking, I'm pulling up on the drive thinking, should I tell her now that Granddad still has mine in his loft? You know, but it's just the change then. And I'm just thinking about a young Valerie, you know. Were you always into the books and the writing and the typewriter? Tell us more about those early stories and writing, and what was the first book that you read and enjoyed?
Oh gosh, yeah. So always. I mean, I remember being like 8 in school, and I could I went to church school. So from the age of 5 to 11, it was religious service every morning, and then Thursday we'd go in the church, and then you were working towards your Holy Communion, which you took when you were 11. But it was a Church of England, so they call it High Church. And I was a really strong reader, so they would always have me up in the pulpit reading the sermon, the lesson of the day, and that exposure actually to the words of the hymns and references, I think it just clicked something in my brain. So I was really attracted to rhythms and the way language works. And I remember, I don't even know how this happened, but I heard this phrase. It could have been on the radio, TV, I don't remember, but they were talking about somebody who was drunk, and it was a policeman, and he said, "You, sir, are under the influence of drink, or under the influence of alcohol or something like that." It's probably drink, because I definitely couldn't spell alcohol. But I was writing this story. I was 8 years old, and the teacher picked me out my story, and she said it was really good. She was telling the class, and in particular, this phrase. So just how did you find this phrase? Your character was under the influence of drink, and I'm like, I got it. But I used it in the story I was writing, and very early on after that, like my writing was always a thing that picked me out.
Brilliant.
But also my dad, he used to buy, like, he was paying off the Encyclopedia Britannica. So every Saturday morning, the man would come knock on the door, pay it off. And again, we still have them in the house.
Wow.
Would fall into those. Like it was just heaven for me, because like I can see the pages now and things beyond your comprehension. I'm 9-10 years old. The spiny fish and the really detailed, like, breakdown of the anatomy and the key and everything. I don't know what that means. But then on the very next page, it's Christina Rossetti, in the bleak window. And I know that one.
Wow.
So it was literally like firing my brain on all cylinders. And we didn't, I mean, I don't have to stress it, but we really don't have anything like in terms of money to do things. But this was a rich world that we, as they say, So that was my early sort of exposure. Like I say, it was the one thing that always singled me out. Like you can read well, you can write well, and then I just was obsessed with books. I would read my sister older than me. She no longer with us, sadly, but she was also a big reader, and she would bring the books in from the library, and I would just fall into them and just read everything that I could get my hands on. So the first thing that really kind of like excited me, and like just you're a little kid, all the sort of ladybird books, I just love the fairy tales, like the Cinderella story, but also the image. So it's all about all aspects of art, right? All of the fairy stories, the fables. I love the fables. Those were the things that really got me going as a youngster. But I remember like being 12, 13, because I read really quickly and really well, being in school, and I had the autobiography of Malcolm X. And don't know what to do with this book. I was reading like really way above my level. I was reading James Baldwin.
Okay.
One of my favorites was Going to Meet the Man. And I was like, I wasn't 15 then yet. I'm pretty sure of that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I was really just reading ahead. And I remember being in school, and I had that the autobiography of Malcolm X. I had it on my desk, and I got in trouble. The teacher said to me I had a chip on my shoulder.
What?
I went to all-girls school, and we had a room at the top of the school called the attic in Stamford Hills, Skinner School.
Okay, yeah.
And they sent me to the attic. And when I got up to the attic, there was a teacher there. She used to do home economics. Her name was Miss Elmer. She's a really nice Irish woman. She's like, it's the same for me, dealing with like obviously racism and all this stuff. Because the man kept saying to me, "You got a chip on your shoulder," and I would just see like like a fish and chip, like chip on that. I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, what is the chip on my shoulder?"
Yeah,
I didn't get it at all. But she's saying, you're going to get in trouble if you don't stop, reading this. She was really they were telling me off, like, don't read the book. And all it made me do was want to read more. Like what? How is this going to affect me? But then I did, when I was reading Going to Meet the Man, like, so it's a collection of short stories, but it's about basically, a slave hunt, essentially. And in it, James Baldwin describes like very graphic description of a lynching. That book gave me nightmares. Like that book actually terrified me and almost stopped me reading for a while, because it was too much. It was too much. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Like it was very not unorthodox, but untrained. I was just like, I'll read this. I'll read this.
Yeah.
around me, some of it would filter through. I'm sure lots of it went over my head.
Yeah.
Just wanted more, wanted more, wanted more, wanted more.
But
And
that's the beauty of exposure.
yeah.
But you sound like you're devouring those books, and then because the love of reading and everything, and then something impacts and.
It was literally that. I mean, in the summer holidays, we would go to the library. We'd go to the library. And I can remember as well, open up the books. Sometimes back in the day, I don't know if it happens now, but it definitely doesn't happen in the books we do. But I would smell the book and it would smell like sugar,
There is a smell, isn't there?
Back then.
Particularly the older books.
Yeah. And we would just, I would just be in that library, just reading everything and anything. And no, it wasn't like, it was the most natural, sort of focused and also kind of intentional, but so enjoyable process for me. Because it's not like I can say, read 15 books and then you'll learn, it definitely wasn't like that. And again, I think it's also, sort of not a theme, but something that sort of follows me in my life is where I'm just ignored. Like people just kind of leave you alone, So I was doing all that. No one was saying like, oh, why don't you try this book? There was no teacher saying, pick this up. This might be something for you to do. There was not that kind of mentoring.
Yeah.
I was self-mentoring in many ways. I was kind of doing it on my own, trying to figure it out on my own, not really knowing why. And
I love that. I think that's a real help there, where you're doing it for the enjoyment and for yourself. Because I think, like yourself, avid reader, love books, reading from an early age, and Mum would have, there's Reader's Digest, but there was another one, Leisure Circle.
Oh wow!
Where you could get those books, and and it's like 50 pence for that one and £1 for that one. And after a while, it wasn't Mom's thing; that was just my thing. I'm 9 years old and I'm reading books that probably I even didn't know I shouldn't be reading this. Because I think that looks good, but it's like getting to university. Yeah. Where you have to read this and this and this for this. Yeah. And then you're like, well, I'm not going to get through all of this that I have to read. Yeah. So then you're doing the skimming and all of that. And it really put me off books for a while. And I missed the enjoyment of it. So just hearing you talk about, there was no one telling you, what about this, what about that? I can imagine the difference that makes. And maybe it's something to take away in terms of like the younger generations.
Yeah. Allow them, because I think your experience, honestly, Judy, happens to a lot of people. Yeah. I hear from a lot of people who say they don't read. And it always comes from like the only true exposure happening when you have to do it. And there's no pleasure in that, when it's I didn't really like English literature. Like I didn't. I always thought out American writers, Black writers in the Caribbean, that was sort of just what I was gravitating towards. Yeah. And so, I mean, to this day, I can't tell you too much about Jane Austen or the Bronte. I mean, I do like a bit of Thomas Hardy, but I really didn't like it. And I think it was partly what you're saying, that idea of it's an essential rather than something that you can actually grow into and learn to love and nurture and develop.
And learn something from it and get absorbed into it, and then I just think we may need to look at how we come at this, because my day job, I'm teaching, and it's like these young people do not want to engage. So I teach, but I also do assessments for special needs, and I'm like,
yes,
it's like just need to shift a little bit in terms of how we get them into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we can talk about it because, right when you said that, there's one book in particular that we published that the author, his whole goal, his whole impetus for writing this book was to get it in the hands of young kids reading. And it's D.D. Armstrong, and it's Ugly Dogs Don't Cry. And it's
I've heard of that.
His reinterpretation of Mice and Men, which is the
fantastic.
And it's set in Grenfell and in London, northwest London, and he's taken it into classrooms. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Okay. So when we finish and we come up there, we need to. There's some, because there's a real
Yeah.
need right now. You know, we need our young people to be reading.
Definitely.
And enjoying it, because I found,
readers.
yeah, I mean, I found coming out of that, it's like, if I have to read something for work or whatever, you know, but then I think because I had that foundation and that love that's never gone.
That's right.
So what tends to happen is, oh, that looks really good, then I buy it and it's there waiting for me for a plane journey or something, you know.
It's probably up there or there.
You know, it's kind of like we're in front of one bookcase and then there's another one. So,
I know they do. They follow us, don't they?
Absolutely.
And it's like, are you like this, Valerie? Do you get rid of any of your books?
Okay, so I do. I've gotten a lot better at it. And the way that I justify it is that they're paperback. If I buy the paperback, they're paperbacks and they're recyclable. Otherwise, I would be like, literally, I've probably got 10,000.